Well, Jim, it's absolutely beautiful place here, Beachy Park, and these gallops, they're wonderful to look at, and they look like they're ideal for the horses. And I know that it's something you've put a great deal of care and thought into to get these gallops as you want them.
Yes, well, what we needed was a gallop away from home, and this seemed an ideal place for us because it's only 35 minutes from Coolcullen, and we have 1.25 miles on the grass here, so we just take the horses down and do whatever it is we want to do with them and take them home again. It's the same as a racecourse gallop.
So is that the idea, really, to sort of replicate the racecourse style of everything, really, in terms of the width and what's underfoot as well?
Yeah, well, obviously we have to have good underfoot conditions, so
which were naturally here. I mean, that's what was perfect about here.
Yes, well, we had to lay it out and get it to that situation, but it's working very well for us, and you also don't have to be ringing up and getting permission and that sort of thing. We can come whenever we like, morning, noon or afternoon.
So it's really your own racecourse?
Well, it's a bit like that. That's the way it's functioning anyway. And
you seem to, there's a sort of dip which in many ways does replicate what is the Rowley Mile dip.
Yeah, well, it's about exactly the same as the Rowley Mile, yeah.
And did you, when it was originally there, did you have to sort of accentuate the dip that was existing, or maybe just lessen it a little?
We had to lessen it a little bit. It was a little bit steeper, and we moved the topsoil off and then shoved some more of the subsoil back into it and then put the topsoil back on it.
Well, watching...
it's working fine.
It's working very well, and watching Dawn approach there, he looks like an incredibly relaxed character.
Yeah, he's very easy to handle. He's a great temperament, and he looks like staying that way as well. He's had 5 races now, and they don't seem to have taken anything out of him.
Because he, again, I mean, 5 races as well. I mean, 2-year-olds will obviously vary so much as to how they can take. And I guess at the beginning of the year, you can't sort of set out a full campaign because you never know quite how much they're going to take. And I suppose he must have been the same in that respect.
Well, you play it by ear as you go along, and he came out of each race very well, and we'd absolutely no problems with him since the day we started.
And just run us through then his season and really, you know, how it began and how as such he progressed, and if at any stage he surprised you, I suppose, with his development.
Well, from the day he was broken and started, or at least from the day he started cantering, he always looked as if he could do something, and nothing seemed to faze him. And when we stepped up to cantering in February, he just went on from there, and he was ready to run then by late March, and we decided we'd go ahead at that stage even if it was a bit early. And he came out of that very well, and then there was a listed race coming up and we went for that, and he's progressed from there. He
certainly has, of course, winning the Coventry and then winning the national stakes back here. And again, you probably could have had other targets for him where perhaps the weather interfered.
Well, I had intended running him in the Futurity at the Curragh, but that was heavy going and we didn't want to risk that.
Now, comparisons can often be odious, but in this case it's obvious to ask him how he does compare with his sire New Approach.
Oh, well, he's right up there ability-wise with what New Approach could do, but he may not stay as well as he did, but he'll be still able to show that he's a top horse up to a mile anyway.
Well, we see obviously he's one of the leading lights in terms of the anti-post for the 2,000 guineas next year, which is a mile. Could you envisage him in a year getting further than a mile? I know you say sort of the stamina won't be the same as his sire, but would you see that as a way he could go beyond a mile?
It's possible that he could maybe get another furlong. 2 might be stretching it, but from my point of view, I'd be happy enough if he, you know, even stays at a mile. I think he'd be a top miler.
And looking at him as well, just in terms of his physique, he's got a really lovely strong back on him. Everything about him seems, well, it seems very well proportioned, but I just like the strength in what is a very sort of relaxed horse. Yeah,
well, he's very well put together, and as you said, he's very strong. You know, he's even sprinty looking, but that doesn't worry me too much. I'm pretty sure he'll get the mile all right.
And just tell us about the dam, him of the Dawn, who's, I think there were the 3 previous foals that came before him, and he actually has a full sister also. But just tell us about where you got her from, where you bought her, and also just you know, a little bit about why you decided to put her to New Approach.
Yeah, well, I bought her in Keeneland, and she has a very good tail female line, and that's what I was after. And even though her pedigree was a little light in the 1st and 2nd generations, I was happy enough to see a top mare there as the 3rd dam. So, and she's by Seabird, so that didn't hurt. And I felt that maybe if I could win a race with her and she showed us something, I'd keep her as a brood mare. In any case, she had an accident. She knuckled over on a gravel path as a 2-year-old, and the joint never really came right after that. We did manage to get a couple of runs into her as a 3-year-old, and while she ran well, she didn't succeed in winning, but I was always going to keep her anyway. And we had to wait a little while. She had 3 foals before she had Dawn Approach, so she seems to have made up for it with him. And
so again, just the decision to go to New Approach?
Well, in that case, I valued her as a broodmare. She's a very good looker, very well put together, and a big step to her. And it was also convenient that she was empty that year. So as New Approach stands in England, we didn't have to be sending a foal or getting a foster mother. So off she went, and this was the result.
And so back to Dawn Approach, and bearing in mind we've talked about the gallops and said we'll know about the dip at Newmarket, but you know, he's following in his sire's footsteps there to go and do his very best in the Dewhurst.
Well, New Approach had a good record at Newmarket, and he was absolutely scintillating in the Champion Stakes, and I think he still holds the track record there. So I'm hopeful that Dawn Approach will handle Newmarket as well as New Approach did, and maybe go one better in the 2000 Guineas.
Well, that would be very nice, wouldn't it? We saw Lettermore with him, who's also his plans to go for the Dewhurst too, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, he'll make sure there's an honest pace, and hopefully he'll be able to pick up some prize money.
And does he do a lot of the homework, the gallops with Dawn Approach?
No, not a lot, but he does do some work with him. But the reason he doesn't do much work at home anyway, because he's been on the track most of the year, so it wouldn't be fair to be using him as a workhorse as well. But this morning now it just fitted into his schedule that he needs the work to fit him up for the Dewhurst as well.
Trading Leather's another one who you're planning to bring across for the future Champions Day.
Yes, his last run was very good and he's come out of the race well, and we'd be hoping he can give a good account of himself there and maybe fit himself up for the Racing Post Trophy.
And then next year I think you'd like to see him go a bit further and taking some of those top prizes.
Well, I'm viewing him at the moment as a Derby horse, so hopefully things will work out, and hopefully my assessment of him is correct.
And the assessment's obviously a very high one. In terms of that as well, he's obviously a very good 2-year-old and anticipating still more to come from him this year. But do you still feel then that, you know, come a 3-year-old, there'll be more to give from him then?
Well, he even looks a bit backward at the moment, and he's more furnishing to do. And it's only been in the last couple of weeks that he's really stepped up to where he is now. So I'd imagine there's a nice bit of improvement to come, and I'm very optimistic that he'll stay 1.5 miles.
Wexford Opera, who's another one you have also by New Approach. What's the plans for him?
Well, I thought he ran well in Dundalk last week. He was beaten 2 heads, and maybe in another stride or two he would have got up. And who knows, at the end of 6 furlongs he might have had a daylight between him and his pursuers. So he'll go for the middle park at Newmarket. A little bit ambitious, but I believe in the horse. I may not have placed him all that well, probably shouldn't have run him in soft ground at the Curragh over 1 mile, but I'm hopeful that he can give a good account of himself there.
Okay, well, it sounds like a pretty serious raid on the future Champions Day. Best of luck.
Well, we'll have a busy day. Thanks, Lorna. Thank you.